Okay, who's ready for some drifting? I know I am. It's been a while since I've hit the streets with an on-road car, and I am looking to throw this thing sideways through some turns. This is the Redcat Racing Thunder Drift, and it's a pretty inexpensive way to get into drifting. It's about $170 for a fully ready-to-run car. The only thing you're going to need is 4 AA batteries for the radio. Now, starting off, this thing looks pretty interesting, I have to say that. I really like the front end of this car. The back of it, it's a little, a little too swoopy for me. But overall, it gives you a sleek-looking drift car. It is definitely not a licensed car. And let's just give it a closer look. It's got this really aggressive front end on it. Check out that swoopy roof line there. We actually got a hard spoiler on the back. Pretty interesting-looking taillights. Comes painted just like this. You could also get it in a gunmetal version, and it's also pre-decaled from the factory. The body actually, when you get it out of the box, sits up pretty high on this thing, and the first thing I did was go in and lower the body clips that support the body on the inside, cut the body post down. Just can't have those tall body posts on there. And I think it looks a lot better slammed down. So that's something you may want to do, make yours look a little better when you get it. Does have mirrors on the sides. It's got some windshield wipers on the front there. And, it gets the job done. It looks pretty decent. Now, these wheels on here, they're a black chrome or maybe more of a dark gunmetal. They have a pretty good look to them. And these are a hard plastic drift tire on here, so it'll slide right out of the box. You don't have to worry about setup. Super easy to do. And then if you look really deep inside, you can see it does have a disc brake in there. For looks, it actually integrates into the 12mm hex on there. And the calipers on there are red. Now, the only thing is when you do go in and spin the wheels, the caliper does spin. So it's not separate, and kind of wish it was separate. But the detail of the brake disc is actually a decal. I think they're just giving you some extra details to improve your experience when you're out there just, sliding this thing around. But what I want to do, I want to go over to the workbench. I'll pop the body off on this, and I'll show you all the details of what's inside. All right, so let's take a closer look at the Thunder Drift chassis. Here it is. This is how it comes out of the box, completely assembled. Even the battery was installed when I pulled it out of the box. That was pretty interesting. But this is a belt-driven chassis, pretty good-looking chassis, actually. I like the way it's set up with the motor place in the front. We got the battery in the back, and just the way the weight's distributed, I think it should be easy to drive this thing. Let's start off talking about some of the details up front. We've got this foam front bumper. That will definitely help protect your car when you're learning how to drift. Those curbs can be brutal on drift cars. Right back here, this is what catches my eye. We've got these aluminum shocks on here. They are oil-filled. I believe they're oil-filled. Kind of feels a little bouncy there, but they are at least aluminum. We've got threaded bodies on here, so you could go and adjust the preload on there. Even the little ball end up top, that's aluminum. That's pretty nice. The rest of the suspension is composite plastic, so we've got a composite plastic shock tower here. The lower arms are composite, and we've got your standard style of suspension setup here. We've got plastic C carriers, we've got plastic steering knuckles, and it's really just your standard style of touring car, sedan style car suspension setup. So it should work just fine. Now inside we've got some plastic bulkheads, and moving on to the chassis here, we've got all of these plastic upper plates for support to help stiffen up the chassis. And let's just take a quick look at the chassis here. So it is a composite chassis as well. But as you can see, it's braced pretty well, so it should be pretty stiff. It feels kind of stiff, actually. So it should work well for this platform, but it looks pretty well laid out. We've got our steering cranks up here. These are bushing supported, so it should swing a bit freer than plastic bushings. Let me move back here to the rear suspension. We'll show you that really quick. And so down in there, it's just your standard H-arm touring car style suspension. We've got plastic hubs on the outside, and those ball links those tie rods are adjustable there as well. Plastic shock tower, and then again, we've got those aluminum shocks in the rear of the vehicle. And pivot supports, those are plastic as well. We've got steel hinge pins inside. And again, it's your basic touring car setup. It'll work just fine for drifting as well. Now onto the drivetrain. Again, this is belt-style drivetrain, and we even have some belt tensioners in there to adjust the belt tension of the belt as it loosens up. I like that we've got an aluminum plate for the spur gear. Helps that ride nice and true. Let me just turn this around so you can see the motor plate in there. Aluminum motor plate. There's your large pinion gear. And a composite spur. Now, the differentials. These are open differentials on here. You can see the differential right there with the pulley on it, and it is a gear differential, but it is open. Usually we have a spool, at least in the rear, to help you slide around the corners. So we'll see how that works out there. It should work just fine. All right, that leaves us with the electronics. We've got the 540 CAN motor in there for power. Got a 2100 milliamp battery for runtime, and here is your WP1040 speed controller that we see in a lot of Redcat vehicles. Brush motor speed controller, obviously, and then over here is your Hexfly servo for the steering. So, you know, everything is all set up, ready to go, and it even has an aluminum antenna out there. That's pretty cool as well. It does have these bullet style connectors on there. Not a big fan of those, but they'll work out. They do give you a charger with the kit, so I'll show you that. There is the wall charger. Probably gonna want to go and pick up a faster charger, but at least if you do use this, it has a LED light to show you when the battery's done. They give you some extra body clips, and here is all your paperwork that comes with it. There's the antenna, bind plug, and all the information to get you up and running, including some stuff on a charger. And here is the radio system here, the RCR2CE, and here are all your trim functions up top under this plate. If I can pop it open, there we go. So there's all your trim functions. That radio works very good, 2.4 gigahertz radio. And overall, it's a great looking package. Now everything you see here is $170. So to get into drifting, that is a great price in my opinion. And that just leaves going out and driving it. So let's go have some fun. So let's talk Thunder Drift performance. Now, does it drift? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this thing has plastic tires on it, so from the moment you put this thing down, it's just going to start sliding around. So if you've never drifted before, you're going to be able to do it from the second you put this thing on the tarmac. Now, does it drift? Well, it actually drifts pretty good for a entry-level drift car. Now, when you go and pull the throttle on this thing, you don't want to pull full throttle. Drifting is all about throttle finesse and managing the input of the acceleration and, of course, counter steering through your corners and stuff, setting up for your corners and everything. And if you go and pull too much throttle on this thing, you're just going to do donuts. Those differentials are going to unload. It's going to be a little bit of a wild situation gathering things up, but just start off at a low throttle pace and, learn entering the corners, a little bit of counter steering, a little flick action to get the rear broken free and start to, slide sideways. And then, of course, get your counter steer on while you input more throttle to basically control your drift. So as you saw, I went to a bunch of different parking lots and shopping centers to drive this thing. And, it's just fun. It's all about kind of finding those cool spots to go and drift around poles, just drift in large parking lots, The only thing I would say to watch out for are parking lots or areas with cracks, because what happened with me is, hitting some of the cracks in the parking lot, it would knock the plastic tires off the rim, so you'd have to go and kind of press them back on because they're just a press fit on there. But other than that, it was fun. It was fun to just kind of get a feel for the car and, just sliding around. That's what it's all about. It does work pretty well out there. The body out there in the asphalt in the big wide open kind of just looks like an orange block out there. So I think, at least for me, a body upgrade is in the future. This thing just didn't pop out there for me. It looks okay here on the bench. Kind of started to grow on me, but out there I think I want something a bit more scale. But what would be pretty cool is going and getting a set of rubber tires as well for this. With the way it's set up, you could just go and throw some rubber tires on it and have fun as a road machine. And you'll have much quicker cornering. You could rip it up and down the street for some speed runs and stuff like that. And that would be a lot more fun. So I think it's a pretty versatile car. Now, did anything happen to this thing? I noticed that the steering servo was actually wandering a little bit. It wasn't staying on center. So I went and swapped it out with another cheapy servo that I had, and it worked fine after that. So typically that's a rare occurrence that a servo comes out of the box bad, but again, it was just a cheapy fix for me. As I mentioned before, the tires kept on knocking off the wheels when I hit some cracks and stuff like that, but other than that, it just scraped up on the bottom. Didn't have any issues with the belts as far as rocks or anything getting in there, and I was even sliding this thing through some sand. So it stayed pretty clean on the inside. And overall, it's just a lot of fun. Like I said, it's priced at about $170, and kind of looking around at other ready-to-run drift cars out there for the under $200 mark. There was only like 2 that I saw really quickly, and one of those other ones was actually a Redcat on-road car. But this one, I like the way it's set up. I like the belt drive system in there, and it just performed really well. So you want to get into the drift scene just for the fun of it, just to slide around in a parking lot or maybe your driveway or something like that. I think the Thunder Drift is pretty well equipped, and it's a great kit to get started with.